Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024, and Hillary Clinton stepped in it. On The View this morning, they opened with Hillary being on Jimmy Fallon's show last night or the night before, um, basically saying, if you're undecided about this presidential election, get over yourself. Um, and the choices are very clear. Why you'd be wavering in any way whatsoever is mystifying, which is 100% accurate. And uh, it's nice to see a little bit of refreshing honesty out of her. That's just like back to the basket of deplorables days. Uh, she is correct about getting over yourself. I understand the point, and Sunny made this point very clear, and specifically about um, uh, Muslim voters and people who have family members in Palestine, um, really having a hard time with Joe Biden and and what they're calling his support for genocide by providing um, Israel weapons to defend itself. Um, and I get it. I understand that whole thing. I think Papa Joe's patience and support for Netanyahu is waning. I think there will probably be some sort of shift by the time we get towards election time. Um, you know, Israel's army accidentally killing those aid workers is not helping their cause at all. Um, so the general world consensus is like, hey, Israel, back the fuck off. And unfortunately, as the American president, he's got to tiptoe a little bit around that before he can sort of, I don't think he'll ever be able to shut that funnel off. Um, but I get where people are angry about that. But the argument that needs to be made against that, and this is what I think, I don't know, one of them tried to say it, is I get where you don't want to vote for a man because you believe that he's contributing to the genocide of your people. But by not voting for him and allowing Donald Trump to become the president again, what do you think that's going to gain you or the people that you care about in the Middle East or around the world? The damage that he can do, not just to your people, but to everyone, is far greater than the damage that Joe Biden is trying to minimize. So, I say this over and over again online. It's like you've got to, you know, pick your enemies wisely and strategically, because you can hate Joe Biden all you want, um, but even if we call it a three-person race, you want Trump or RFK Jr. at the helm, because not voting for him that's what you're asking for. That's not it's not even what you're letting happen. That's what you're saying. I approve of this happening. Um, that's it's an unfortunate situation that we're in this election cycle. But again, we have so much time to go before we get there. It really irritates me. um, they started the segment with, does that help or hurt the camp, does Hillary's comment help or hurt the campaign, and it you know and what does it all mean, and fuck, and Joy trying to make political points about the dangers of Donald Trump is always just pointless. She lists off these things that he's done, usually poorly. It's and I mean, his base is his base is his base. We all know that, and we all know, asking the question, why do people support him? Why do evangelicals want him when he's the least Christian president we've ever had? It's always for all of his supporters. It's about the bigotry. They love the hate. They love that they feel that he makes them feel comfortable hating the people they want to hate. Um, and to me, like, how you can't see that stark difference. Um, and the Gaza situation aside, anybody else sitting on the fence, Hillary Clinton is right. Get the fuck over yourself. Um, I don't. It's just bizarre that um, we had this in 2016 where like they couldn't bring themselves to vote for Hillary. Like I just can't. I just don't know. And it's like we've seen what happens um, when we both sides it and can't decide which one's the worst enemy. Um, and uh, things are definitely more even keeled and going in a more positive direction with Biden than with Trump. I understand that there's a whole section of Trump believers that that will never believe anything is ever going to be good enough unless he's in charge of it because they're not rational thinking people. I think you just take them out of the equation entirely. They are who they are. Trump is apparently starting this new um, uh, Trump political committee. That's what I read, which is very scary that he may be just trying to fold the RNC and like just becoming a whole party of Trump, which might be fine because then that's going to leave all those independent Republicans that can't go along with him. Like they're gonna have to go somewhere. That would be the beginning of a third party in this country. Um, but uh, you know, this kind of debate about this far out, and one comment from Hillary Clinton, how much damage or help that's going to do, it's just a stupid conversation. Um, and Amy Lucifero Farrell Griffin is like, it's the quiet part out loud. That's not good messaging. I was like, I get it, but she's she's campaigned enough. I think that she's tired of the dancing around the answer. Um, Not that it means she can say whatever she wants and get away with it, but um, you know, you hear in that answer the frustration of, do you not understand what's at stake? And that's the I think the biggest question is for these people who are undecided. Do you not really understand what's at stake? Um, because I don't think I don't and I think a lot of these people that are undecided are a lot of those people that just aren't paying attention yet. They'll decide later, um, which is also a weird thing to me. Why people don't want to be involved in the politics of their nation or their country or their state or their city or their county. It boggles my mind why they don't think that all that stuff matters because it sure does. And then they talked about the women's NCAA tournament um, pulling in bigger audiences than the men's tournament, um, which is interesting. And women's basketball is, excuse me, women's college basketball has been um, a sort of gaining audience and building for a while now. And what's weird though is that it doesn't translate to the WNBA. The audiences don't seem to follow once they leave school and they're professional athletes. And I think that is 100% misogyny about women professional athletes. You see it all the time when it, Serena Williams doesn't get the due that she's owed for being, um, you know, the greatest athlete uh, of a genre. Um, it's always caveated. Um, it's bizarre, but I just think it's true of so many things in our country and in our culture that it's not necessarily um, a conscious bias, um, but it isn't traditional to what we've been accustomed to, and um, until women's sports are pulling in the same kinds of dollars, the athletes aren't going to get paid as much, which kind of sucks. But I feel like if maybe there was more exposure of and more promotion of female professional sports by things like ESPN and sports channels, that that money would follow. The eyeballs would go there. Um, but I think that there's a preconception that the eyeballs won't go, so nobody gives it a shot. It's all just part of the cycle of patriotism, patriarchy. Those are two different things. Um, gosh, uh, yeah, and Whoopi got fired. That got Whoopi all fired up. Um, and I do think that we're going to see a stronger insurgents, I don't know, ascent of women's professional sports. But again, I think this is all part of like a generational thing about getting, you know, things that we aren't necessarily accustomed to as being traditional um, uh, pieces of entertainment, because that's really what sports is. Uh, into the sort of the mainstream, the money part of it, which is really television at this point. And who knows what that model might look like in 20 years. Um, and speaking of models and what things might look like in 20 years, they they showed an AI host for some program. It was, I think, Mexican television, um, a completely computer generated female host of some sort of program. And God, Joy, God bless her. She goes, yeah, she's asking about the robot. Joy, it's not a robot. AI is not a robot. AI is a completely manufactured. There's nothing. It's artificial intelligence is about creating something from existing. Um, you can call it intellectual property if you want, existing assets, things that already exist in the world. There are already videos and images of people. There are already words and scripts and novels that exist. AI just picks out of the ether and assembles, and it's a computer program just pulling all this stuff in to create a new entity out of things that already existed before. So there is no person that's creating that. There's no um, manual manipulation. It is uh, hey, AI program, whatever you're using, create for me, um, and you describe it, and the more and it just becomes something. It becomes a new re- entity out of recycled material. But I love that she called it a robot because it's like it's not robots. No robot. Um, and it's really fucking dangerous because you can make anybody look like they're doing anything, and that's the thing. Like this is a completely manufactured female person, but you can make it look like Tom Hanks is starring in a new film that was written by AI and uses his likeness, and he's never attached to it. There is enough property that you can make his image say whatever you want it to say and do whatever you want it to do, um, but without involving him whatsoever. So it's all kind of terrifying. Um, and I think it was Sarah who said that, even the engineers behind AI are like, oh, uh-oh, we done gone too far. So who knows what things will look like in 20 years. But based on the weather this week, I should be building an ark, because I think it feels like my mountain home is going to be a seaside home by the time we get to 20 years from now. Okay, Wednesday, stop recording.